Act 1. The Dance of Death. Harlequins are enigmatic travelers and nomads who leave behind their former lives to embark upon an entirely new and unorthodox path. They all devoutly revere the laughing god, Segarak, and for millennia they have served as guardians of ancient traditions, entrusted with the duty of remembering and reviving the myths of the Eldar through enthralling performances of song and dance. However, this is not an ordinary act, but a captivating dynamic spectacle with complexity and splendor that can stir even the most jaded Archon. These performances and the memories of the past conveyed through them hold deep spiritual significance for the Eldar. Hence, Harlequins are not sedentary but constantly move, showcasing their plays in each of the splintered Eldar communities. Thus, they traverse the labyrinthine webway to reach craft worlds, exodite planets, and the shadowed corners of Comorra, enchanting audiences with their astounding dances. Harlequins worship an entity known as Segarak, the laughing god, also called the First Fool or the Great Harlequin. Segarak is a trickster god, equally mocking, enigmatic, vengeful and sinister. With his jests and pranks, he punishes insufferable arrogance, be it in mortals or gods. Among the Eldar, instructive stories and legends of the theft of Cain's blade or the wedding of Screams are still told. It is believed that among all the elder gods, only Segarak survived the fall and escaped the Pantheon's fate. Legend holds that when Slanesh battled Kayla Menashe Khan, the laughing god fled into the webway and concealed himself among its countless tunnels. It is said that he remains there to this day, mocking the Chaos God's impotence to capture him and plotting sinister schemes of retribution. There are even rumors that sometimes Segarak appears among his children, assuming the guise of an anonymous Harlequin player. Regardless of the truth of such tales, it is worth noting that only the laughing god holds dominion over the Harlequins, who fight in wars and perform mythical dances among the stars in his name. Of all the mythical cycle fragments showcased by Harlequins on stage, the most famous is the Endless Dance. However, it is far from the only story recounted by these mystifying troubadours. There are also the Cripple and the Dragon, the Blades of Vol, Isha's Tears, and many others. Each actor in the theatre embodies a character from these epics, making them easily recognizable to audiences familiar with the legends. In the tale of the Blades of Vol, for example, the Godsmith is driven by sympathy for Isha and Kurnus, who are imprisoned by Cain, and he agrees to forge 100 swords so that the god of war will release them. However, Vol failed to craft all the blades on time, and then an enraged Cain attacked his uncle. The culmination of this performance is a brilliant duel between two gods, executed with unparalleled skill by the Harlequins. If the Harlequins were mere wandering actors, they would never have drawn such widespread attention throughout the galaxy. However, their duty is far more dreadful and mysterious than merely conveying the story of the Elder people, which in itself is of immense importance. As students of the laughing god, the Harlequins are sworn enemies of chaos and are engaged in an endless struggle against the primordial annihilator, a conflict that has endured for millennia since the time of the fall. The Harlequins believe there is a chance, a slender thread of hope, which might somehow alter the tragic fate of the Eldar into something else, and allow the children of the stars to survive the Rana Dandra, the battle at the end of times. Moreover, the servants of Segarak also guard the Black Library, a clandestine realm containing ancient Eldar knowledge. By mastering and utilizing the secrets contained therein, they conduct a covert war, appearing on the battlefield as the same actors of grand dramas, for to them, war and art are one and the same. Nonetheless, their intentions and motives remain mostly unfathomable to outsiders. The Black Library is hidden from prying eyes deep within the convoluted and unfathomable channels of the webway. It is said to be the most secretive place in the entire galaxy, and access is granted only to a select few. But even if this were not the case, it is still well guarded. Approaches to the Black Library are patrolled by numerous Harlequin troops, while within, its secrets are safeguarded by shadowy sentinels who serve simultaneously as scholars and warriors. Even if one were to learn of the library's existence, they might spend their entire life searching for it, only to find nothing. And even if it were found, an entire army would be required to bypass its defenders. In the halls of this mystical edifice lies the collective wisdom of the Eldar, concerning the threat of chaos and how it might be vanquished. Every crumb of esoteric knowledge, from ancient and tattered grimoires with instructions on dispelling enchantments and casting protective spells, to artifacts harnessed with imprisoned demons that can be interrogated by the strong-minded, is stored there. A section is also dedicated to crystallized thoughts, which can be preserved and concealed, then retrieved for future generations. This repository essentially serves as the Harlequins' primary weapon in the ongoing war against the gods of chaos and their minions. And though it exists to benefit the Eldar people on rare occasions, outsiders have been granted access. The most notable individuals permitted this privilege likely include Inquisitors Bronislaw, Chivak, and Jack Draco. Chivak, in particular, positioned himself within the Ordo Xenos as a great expert in the field of the Eldar, and the Guardians of the Black Library saw in him a potential ally in the struggle against Ahriman of the Thousand Suns. The Harlequins, nevertheless, understand that similar relaxations must be rare, as before, because the burden of knowledge weighs even upon steadfast individuals like Chevak. Moreover, enemies might resort to torture to extract all the necessary secrets from them. Considering the increased threat of chaos, the enigmatic protectors of the Black Library must constantly remain vigilant for its safety. Given their unusual calling, the actions of the Harlequins sometimes appear unjustifiably cruel, somewhat whimsical, and occasionally heroic. On the planet Caradox, an Imperial research team attempting to seize archaeotechnological treasures fell victim to a ruthless and unexpected assault from the troop of masks known as Midnight Sorrow. As their strength waned and resolve faded, the forces of the Imperium left the world empty-handed, with no one ever learning of the horrors their so-called treasures could unleash upon reality. Throughout history, there have been tens of thousands of such incidents involving myriad races in the galaxy, and as the period of decline nears, their number only increases. While these attacks may appear random at best, they are in fact all part of the enigmatic plans of the Laughing God, and only those who have witnessed the greatest mysteries of the Black Library with their own eyes dare to hope to unravel them. In battle, the Harlequins prefer to rely on speed and skill rather than brute strength and endurance. Their holosuits shatter the outline of the wearer into multicolored particles, causing each Harlequin to seemingly race through an insubstantial storm of psychedelic colors, into which panicking enemies may fire to their heart's content, only realizing at the lethal moment that the jesters are all too real. The roar of battle is their drumroll, the cries of the dying their applause. For the Harlequins storming through enemy ranks, every step in battle is akin to a dance, each victim an equal measure a sworn enemy and an unwilling partner. Blades flicker like lightning, striking sparks and spraying blood as victims desperately attempt to parry blows. All the while, enemies are forced to battle their own worst nightmares, reflected in the iridescent, ever-changing masks of the Harlequins. And if lone Harlequins can be compared to actors on a stage, then an entire army of them resembles a travelling circus ready to stage a bloody performance. These war bands, known as masks, fight with breathtaking synchrony. Entire troops of Harlequins rush across the battlefield, emerging from concealed gateways of the webway and striking without warning. Crews of jet bikes, skyweavers, engage enemies in aerial ballet, soaring overhead while throwing star missile balls. Explosions blossom one after another, their roar rising to a deafening crescendo, accompanied by a wail as the transport Starweavers and the gunship Voidweavers open fire. Each troop master directs the performers with the skill of an impresario and the strategic genius of an experienced general. The Death Jesters unleash volleys of fire to obliterate enemy commanders, laughing with the cruel humor of slaughter. The enigmatic Shadowseers use their mystical abilities to terrify and deceive, drowning the enemy in nightmare visions, and if one of the dreadful solitaires deigns to join the fray, they can annihilate entire enemy regiments with impossible displays of martial prowess. To the untrained eye, an attack by a Harlequin mask is a riotous blur of sound, colour and violence. Only the senses of an elder can discern the pattern in their movements. Every moment is choreographed. Every performer instinctively knows how and when their comrades will strike. It's an art forged by war, a battle conducted with perfect rhythm and meaning, and it is as deadly as it is mesmerizing. Emulating ancient troops of Segorak's followers, the Harlequins wander as part of mask theatres, large ensembles whose members perform and fight together. Each theatre relies on a certain number of troops, joined by shadow seers and death jesters at will. Every ensemble member participates in grand performances, taking on the role of a character from a mythical cycle. Thus, someone might play the Dawn Singer, while another plays the Blinded Princess. Some roles are reserved for specific performers. For example, only a death jester can play the Death Crone, along with a few other roles if desired. The most fearsome role always falls to the solitaire, the most ominous and repugnant, yet simultaneously enticing and captivating troubadour in the entire theatre. For only he can embody She Who Thirsts. Slaanesh, the hated nemesis of all Eldar. The part he performs renders the solitaire solitary like no other. He speaks only in ritual form, and even then very rarely outside the stage. Other Eldar universally fear him, even his fellow Harlequins, as everyone knows that the solitaire walks a cursed path and his soul is pledged to Slaanesh. Each Harlequin mask theatre has a name and distinctive trait drawn from Eldar legends. Typically, the name greatly influences the actor's behavior and imparts characteristics to the troupe. For instance, members of the Midnight Sorrow can likely be considered the most resolute of all Harlequins, as they stoically shield the rift between reality and the warp, and are determined to fight against the infernal hordes to the very end. They attack at dusk, but before darkness sets in, and so they always wait for the midnight tolling of bells, when they must pass through the raging hellfire of demonic incursions and bring death to the spawn of chaos. The organization of the Harlequin Mask Theatre is as old as time. It represents that deeply rooted part of Eldar culture which, despite minor differences between theatres, has remained mostly unchanged for thousands of years. The foundation of any theatre consists of 3 troupes, led by artistic directors, always accompanied by 2 squads of Skyweavers and 1 squad of Voidweavers. Moreover, the theatre usually includes at least 1 Shadow Seer and a Death Jester, who sometimes fight alongside the acting ensembles. In rare cases, a solitaire joins them. He is not included in the collective, as he lingers only as long as his personal motives align with the aims of the theatre. Thanks to the indescribably easy coordination of each troupe's tactics and actions on the battlefield, the Theatre of Masks can be compared to a playful whirlwind, and those who encounter the Harlequins invariably experience a disturbing feeling, as if, without their consent, they have been made a pawn in some grand game. When Death Jesters, Shadow Seers and Solitaires join the battle on the theatre's side, these cursed Eldar transform into lightning-fast killers. Most Eldar live with the bitter thought that all their gods have disappeared, abandoned their children to fate, or perished during the fall. The Harlequins form a nearly unique stratum, knowing that Segorak survived the birth of Slaanesh and is now devising plans to save the Eldar race. Every year more and more embark on the path of the Harlequins, shedding their former lives to don the mask and costume of the Laughing God. The Harlequins are among the most active fighters against the threat of chaos throughout the galaxy. They particularly fiercely oppose the minions of She Who Thirsts, the nemesis of the Eldar people, who took their souls at the moment of her birth. Over the long millennia since Slaanesh emerged, the Eldar, both the residents of the craft worlds and the denizens of Comera, have learned to deceive their fate, but not forever. The most implacable enemies of chaos are undoubtedly the Harlequins of the Midnight Sorrow Mask, who have vowed to Segorak to fight the ruinous powers until the end of time. Believing that all means are fair in achieving victory, they form alliances with the followers of the Corpse God, while simultaneously cutting them down mercilessly if required. Those who deal with them might find them impossibly capricious, yet the performers justify their unpredictability by claiming they are following the grand scheme of the Laughing God. In recent years, the theatre has more often engaged in conflicts with the minions of She Who Thirsts under the watchful and growingly concerned eyes of the seers from the artificial worlds, who feel that the fierce and bold nature of the Midnight Sorrow's actions signifies the coming of the end times. Nevertheless, these resolute and brave Harlequins continue to perform the exquisite dance for their kin and the bloody dance of death on the battlefield. For the show, after all, must go on. Between the material universe and the seething chaos of the Empyrean lies a thin layer of the Twilight Realm, hidden from mortals and demons alike. It is known as the Webway, a labyrinthine dimension where neither the laws of physics spreading across the galaxy nor any laws of the warp's unreality hold sway. Those who know where to find entrances to the Webway can traverse it with incredible speed, and none know its secrets better than the Harlequins. The Eldar whisper that it was Segurak himself who taught them, for, as is known, only he remembers all the paths and roads of the Webway. For this reason, some even claim that the Laughing God endowed his servants with certain supernatural abilities. Be that as it may, with the aid of the Webway, the Eldar are capable of striking unexpectedly and escaping retribution, for countless paths within it spread to nearly every corner of the galaxy. Deep within this same Webway lies the Black Library, where all the wisdom of the Eldar regarding the nature of chaos is gathered, which in the unending war against the ruinous powers could prove to be a decisive weapon. No one, except the Harlequins, truly believes that this war can be won, for the doom of the Eldar was foretold long ago. However, few know that within this mystical repository lies a crystalline tome, which is believed to have been created by Segurak himself. On the pages of this book, written with inks of light and shadow, lies the secret of victory over the dark gods, particularly over the Eldar's most spiteful enemy, the Prince of Pleasure. Now, as the midnight of the 41st millennium approaches, the Harlequins realize that the time has come for their final dance, else total annihilation threatens all. Standing shoulder to shoulder with his brothers in the detachment, each of whom was an Iron Warrior's legionary who had sworn 6 oaths to plunge the stars into the ocean of chaos, Sagoth roared loudly and aimed his bolter at the Xenos filth crawling into the trench. The Eldar. To his left, one suddenly twitched and fell into the muck, striking his face into the wet mud sucking at the Space Marine's feet. More foes emerged from the smoke, Harlequins. Sagoth unleashed a burst in the direction of the newcomers and furrowed his brow, as the targets jumped, spun, and danced under his fire. Each fighter resembled a walking kaleidoscope, clad in a motley outfit with a mask changing its expression in the half-light. One of the dancers drove a wrist-mounted blade into the armoured clasp on Kogorn's helmet, and the World Eater shook like a puppet in an Ogrin's hands before collapsing into the grime. With a practiced motion, Sagor pressed the magazine release button as one of the Harlequins began to navigate the craters of explosions to reach him. Faster than the traitor could reload, the Eldar swept his sword in a shimmering arc, and Sagod barely managed to parry the blow, which instead sliced the bolt gun in two. Overwhelmed with rage, the Chaos Space Marine stared into the face mask of his killer. One half of it was perfectly smooth and white, like polished marble. The other was a grinning skull, exactly like the one on the banner of his legion. A chill ran down Sago's spine as the sword appeared silently at his throat. Act 2. The Mask Theatres. Each mask theatre is recognized by its unique color schemes, carrying ritual significance and referencing ancient myths. In addition, various runes are used, denoting the theatre's name, a specific role, or sometimes individual characters. To witness the mask theatre on the battlefield is to comprehend what boundless fury and astonishing precision mean. An ideal combination of cold, alien wrath and supernatural agility. The spectacle of destruction orchestrated by the Harlequins is as beautiful as it is deadly. Warrior acrobats leap and dance amidst the crowd of enemies, mercilessly cutting down all they encounter, while the Skyweavers cut off the enemy's retreat paths, driving them directly into the volleys of awaiting Voidweavers and Death Jesters lying in ambush. It is through the instinctive connection developed by Harlequins during their shared journeys and performances that the mask theatre demonstrates such coordination and effectiveness in combat, rarely seen in other military formations. Measured by the standards of most armies of the Dark Millennium, the structure of a Harlequin mask theatre might be considered strange and unfamiliar, for it includes eclectic gangs of dancers, mimes, and performers. This is because the mask's roots stretch back to much more peaceful times than present day. As the Eldar race descended toward the abyss of oblivion, the Harlequins took up arms. Thus, actors became warriors fighting for the future of their people. Thousands of years later, they continue to traverse the webway, performing astonishing shows for the scattered remnants of a once great civilization. Yet they ceaselessly battle to execute Segurach's plan to contain the forces of chaos. Additionally, they keep watch over their kin, acting as vigilant sentinels against the devious schemes of She Who Thirsts. While the mask theatres adhere to an organization sanctified by centuries, established by the followers of the Laughing God long ago, each is not devoid of individuality, manifested both on stage and on the battlefield. For example, when the Mask of the Refulgent Stars goes to war, its arrival is preceded by the same light show that heralds its performances, while the Mask of the Dawn Mist attacks in complete silence, mimicking the shadow of Inead from Eldar legends. Such adherence to customs and connection with ancient tales only strengthens the Harlequins in battle. Every tactic they employ is an adaptation of some myth and is called a Saidath, a battle plan with allegorical meaning. It imbues the events with significance and determines which troops will take the lead. Each performer is so intricately versed in the Saidaths that they play their role within them with unfailing precision. The symbol of the Mask of the Midnight Sorrow is a spear embedded in an inverted heart of twilight, reflecting the actor's urge to attack at sunset before darkness takes hold. Taken literally, one might think the Harlequins like to attack at dusk, but there's a deeper meaning here, more profound. The day of the Elder has come and gone, and midnight sorrow strikes now, before the long night falls. Where the fabric of reality tears, and the horrors of the warp emerge from beyond the veil, one can most likely expect a tour from the Mask of the Midnight Sorrow. The warrior acrobats whirl through the hellish flames of demonic incursions and ritual circles, carrying death to the servants of the ruinous powers at the blade's tip. Possessing forbidden knowledge and striking at the hour when the clock strikes midnight, the Harlequins of this mask fight at the forefront of Segurach's war against the dark gods. All Harlequins wage war against the minions of chaos, yet the members of the Midnight Sorrow reveal an unhealthy obsession with this war and are willing to do anything to achieve victory. They circle through the webway passages around the Eye of Terror, fearlessly obliterating the strongholds of demon worshippers wherever they find them. It was the Midnight Sorrow that broke into the ninefold tomb on Dementiax and slaughtered its demonic lords, and it was their warriors who vanquished the Shards of Perfection gang, led by Lucius the Eternal on the Sinful Bliss Bridge. The Shadow Seers of this same mask forged an alliance of the Blood Tears during the Wars of Bitter Blood. Despite grievous losses, the fragile coalition, which included the Harlequins themselves, the Cabal of the Flayed Skull, and the forces of the craftworld Iyanden, purged the renegade fortress world of Sump Pit. The maniacal determination of Midnight Sorrow costs its actors not just their lives, but also their sanity and souls. These servants of the Laughing God are so focused on their demonic foe that everything else becomes obscure and unimportant. Every single battle and performance is tied to the perils of chaos, and in recent centuries the acrobats of this mask have abandoned all other dances for increasingly vivid portrayals of the fall. Consumed by obsession, the members of this troupe have become ensnared in their own roles. All Harlequins, to some extent, sacrifice themselves for the character they play, but most retain at least a fragment of their true personality, even within the boundaries of their role interpretation. However, in the Midnight Sorrow, it is different. Its grim actors rarely speak unless required by the script, and think of nothing except the ultimate defeat of Slanesh. The rune of the hidden path is an inverted question mark indicating intricate puzzles and convoluted plans. It is associated not only with deceit, but also with betrayal and ominous foreboding, promising imminent demise. Tricksters, manipulators, and masters of riddles, the actors of the hidden path are fickle even by Harlequin standards, so much so that players from other mask theatres consider them dangerous and untrustworthy because of their countless misdeeds. However, none can deny how often their duplicity leads to victories. The machinations of this mask theatre span all the domains of the Eldar. For instance, They sent one of their actresses, under the fictitious name of Silandri Veilwalker, to convince Prince Iriel to take up the Spear of Twilight. They also indirectly orchestrated the mysterious meeting of Lady Malice in the Webway, which led to her secret connection with Segarak. No one can say for certain why they do this. Only the seers of the hidden path know the truth. The battles in which this mask theatre participates and the performances they stage resemble dreamlike hallucinations, where illusions are filled with ambiguity. Often spectators and even allies vanish without a trace, never to return. The actors of the hidden path have violated countless agreements and promises, stolen many precious relics and kidnapped numerous heroes. Far from repenting for their transgressions, the Harlequins seem to derive malicious glee from each broken promise and every calamitous event unleashed. It is unclear how much of this pertains to their performance and how much stems from genuine malice. Yet rumours abound that oceans of tears are held back behind their smiling masks. If this is indeed true, the guilt concealed by the members of the hidden path must be truly horrific. The rune of the Frozen Stars Theatre signifies various paths of fate, relying on confidence and determination. Equally merry and sinister, the Frozen Stars Theatre is renowned for the boundless sense of humour of its actors. Standing guard over the virgin worlds of the Eastern Fringe, these Harlequins sincerely cherish hope for their people's future. They believe that there is a path leading to a bright tomorrow, traversing all the horrors of the Rana Dandra. Following the strands of fate that shadow seers discern within the weave of probabilities, the followers of Segarak strive to restore balance to the universe and, in so doing, eliminate certain enemies. Amidst the scattered virginal worlds along the edge of the Eastern Fringe, they fight against the slow creep of chaos, stand against the arrogant might of the Imperium and the mindless expansionism. Yet the mask of the Frozen Stars cares only for the rejuvenation of the Elder and nothing more. They view the other races of the galaxy as harmful parasites, serving only as targets for shockingly cruel jests and pranks. Victims of sudden Harlequin attacks include not only humanity and the Tau, but countless smaller empires too. Many times outsiders who thought the warriors in motley attire came to aid them have bitterly discovered that the enemy of their enemy is by no means their friend. Over millennia, the actors of this mask have committed numerous malevolent acts, including overloading Hive City reactors, launching mighty starships into the warp without protective screens, and exterminating entire planetary populations, all for the amusement of the laughing god. The diamond-shaped symbol of the soaring spite points to the sense of community that connects the Harlequin to mythic creatures whose tales form the basis of their beliefs. In their actions, this mask relies entirely on the story of the cosmic serpent and its kin, conducting almost all their performances and clashes exclusively in the sky, where acrobats soar like the mythical sky serpents from their tails. Actors of the soaring spite are often seen alongside members of the Saim Han, to whom they are spiritually akin. The spectacles of this wandering theatre are also highly popular in the gladiatorial arenas of the witch cults in Komara, where the skyweavers soar and weave, spilling real blood in ritual dances and duels with the finest races. The mask of the Dreaming Shadow has chosen the rune of unrevealed mystery as an ironic remark at kinsmen who chose to forget a mortal threat. Beneath the glow of dying stars, the actors of the Dreaming Shadow tread in the joyless dance of war. Their ancestral duty is to prevent the awakening of an ancient enemy, to slay all who might resurrect the Necron Empire. Actors of the Dreaming Shadow share a general grim demeanour and a smouldering antipathy towards other masks. Of course, this feeling is deliberately exaggerated, being both real and unreal. For the war against the Necrons distracts from the true battle of Segarak against She Who Thirsts. In turn, most other Harlequins highly value the selflessness of the Dreaming Shadow, though some disdain the mask's inherent bitterness, seeing their struggle against the ancient foe as a mournful sideshow in the grand performance. The Dance Without End utilizes the Rune of Myriad Paths, symbolizing Segarak's insight into the nature of the Webway and the never-ending nature of his struggle. The mask Dance Without End descends upon enemies like an avalanche, as if appearing out of nowhere and already firing all weapons. The actors of this masque, known for their passionate and poetic performances, master the spiral of laughter and madness, a cycle of dances, scenes and monologues depicting the deeds of Segurac himself. It is said that such specialization draws the Harlequins closer to their god, with their connection to Segurac so profound that, according to rumors, the webway itself shifts and bends to the masque's will. It is reliably known that the Dance Without End always attacks from the most unexpected direction and vanishes like the wind if anything suddenly goes awry. The Silent Shroud bears the rune of the barbed staff, the mythical weapon of Cernus, the hunter god from the ancient Eldar myths, with which he silently slew his prey. This mask always operates in complete silence, and its actors utter not a word. Their movements whisper through the air like barely moved silk. Even their weapons are muted through illusions and technology, with the hissing of shots and the crashing of blades sounding quieter, as if piercing through a veil from another dimension. Needless to say, this confounds and frightens the enemies of the masque, only adding to the chaos of the Harlequins' assault. Everything this masque does is unpredictable and shrouded in mystery, often appearing out of nowhere to perform impromptu shows, needing neither a stage nor applause. The sharp spires of Comorra, the blood and terror of the battlefield, to the Silent Shroud. The setting of their performances matters not. The masks of the Twisting Path employ the rune of the Stolen Grace, symbolizing the souls that the laughing god takes from enemies and reshapes into weapons for his followers. This masque has earned a fearsome reputation, luring unsuspecting victims into the webway, where they vanish without a trace. During their performances, they often invite audience members to join in, and then as the Harlequins' swirling dance reaches its climax, all disappear without a trace. In battle, they abduct both friends and foes, who are never seen again by comrades or commanders. No one knows where the actors of the Twisting Path take the captives, though rumors suggest it is for some grand scheme of the laughing god. It is said that sometimes the masque goes to battle alongside humans, Tau, and even orcs, launching sudden performances with unexpected allies, whose equipment and attire are marked with the skillfully drawn runes and colours of the Twisting Path. The rune of the Shattered Mirage is irrevocably tied to the theatre of the Shattered Mirage, defining the actor's mindset. In its elegant lines and pointed arches lies the demise of all existence. Among the Eldar there are those who acknowledge the doom of their people. Yet, unwilling to succumb to oblivion, these lost souls fiercely fight against their slow demise, wishing to take the galaxy with them. The mask of the Shattered Mirage, the ghosts of the webway, embodying the mournful grin of the laughing god in the face of his people's death. Its actors are feared by both enemies and comrades, for their performances are dark and terrifying, able to evoke only feelings of despair and hopelessness in the audience. In battles, they fight with a recklessness that terrifies any witness, even in death dragging with them to the grave tens of screaming enemies. To oppose the fractured mirage means to confront an enemy who has no fear of death and desires only to destroy the foe at any cost. The rune worn by the Harlequins of the Reaper's Laugh is an ancient symbol of first blood and the enemy's last breath. All Harlequins have a knack for ironic killings, though some are undoubtedly more gifted in this craft than others. The performers of the Reaper's Laugh take the brutal humour of the laughing god to extremes. Every battlefield becomes for them a bloody canvas, a mould for crafting a masterpiece of death. It is not enough for them to simply kill enemies, they must also turn them into a most vivid and extravagant example. The Palace of Crystal Bones, the Hall of Reverberating Screams, and the Fountain of Crimson Tears are all creations of the Reaper's Laugh. Due to their penchant for inventive cruelty, this mask more often than others attracts death jesters. These sinister warriors fight alongside the performers of the Reaper's Laugh with sardonic delight, executing performances of genocide and horrifying destruction. The Weeping Dawn uses the rune of the Pierced Heart, which from ancient times signifies both a fatal blow and the revelation of truth in myriad ways. Performers of the Weeping Dawn mask are skilled fate assassins, choosing their targets with meticulousness and care. Guided by the whispers of the shadow seers, the mask carves a bloody path among the stars, hunting the greatest enemies of the Eldar. Chaos tyrants, space marine commanders, ethereal caste Tau, and orc warlords, all have perished under the gleaming blades of the weeping dawn. Outsiders who have stepped onto a virgin world, fools who, willingly or not, have colluded with the dark gods, killers of even one Eldar. All of these may draw the attention of the vengeful mask. It is known for certain about the Weeping Dawn that, once they have chosen a target, its performers do not rest until they have taken its life and offered its soul to the laughing god. The performers of the Theatre of the Winter Sun use the rune of Unseen Mysteries as their distinguishing mark, composed of two elder symbols, the rune of Puzzles above and the rune of the Seer below, which lacks the characteristic eye, symbolizing the blindness of the ignorant. The Mask of the Winter Sun is one of the smallest Harlequin groups that guard the webway. They were most recently seen fighting alongside the forces of the craft world Maimeara and Elaitok during the Batalis campaign on Batalis III. In that conflict, their holosuits made them virtually invisible in the never-ending blizzards that dominate the Tormus Delta, enabling them to quickly bypass the Imperial's defense lines. Only the intervention of the great company of the Wolf Lord Bran Redmore saved the Imperial Guard stationed there from certain death. Unlike other masks, the Harlequins of the Winter Sun have not performed for or fought with the Dark Elder for many millennia. The Harlequins' weaponry, founded upon ancient Eldari technology, invariably leads to impressively terrifying and spectacular outcomes. Searing beams of polychromatic light, howling storms of shuriken blades, and billowing clouds of shimmering hallucinogenic gas herald the explosive entrance of these players upon the theatre of war. The Harlequin's mask, known in the Eldari lexicon as the Agite or false face, is a small holographic device worn as a mask. It projects demonic images and death scenes onto the mask and features a short-range psychic amplifier that heightens the enemy's susceptibility to fear and despair. Other versions include the Rictus Mask, which projects an aura of death in the owner's immediate vicinity, or the Mask of Terror, which senses the enemy's worst fears and displays them on the mask, alongside a more powerful psychic amplifier akin to those used in the Mask of Fear. In combat, the Harlequin's mask projects terrifying images of the worst nightmares. The flip belt, or Girgilath in Eldari language, represents a true marvel of Eldari technology, appearing elegant and beautiful compared to the crude and primitive inventions of lesser races. This ornate belt, often encrusted with precious stones and metals, houses a portable anti-gravitational generator so advanced that its operating principle baffles even the Adeptus Mechanicus. Activated by the owner's mental command during performances, it allows Harlequins to leap and perform pirouettes with unnatural grace. While on the battlefield, it amplifies the already considerable lethality of the servants of Segarak. Flip belts are so lightweight that they not only do not hinder movement, but rather enhance the Harlequin's natural agility, to such an extent that they can leap over high obstacles without any contact, as well as run and bound over boulders and debris with supernatural fluidity and dodge melee attacks with the grace of the finest dancers. Exploding in a burst of sparks, Harlequins in combat resemble dazzling blurs, confounding opponents and preventing them from taking aim. This effect is achieved thanks to the holosuit, or Datedi, meaning between colours. It is equipped with a programmed holofield that fractures the wearer's image into shards in a fractal storm of light during movement. The faster the wearer moves, the more pronounced the effect. This is why an attacking Harlequin resembles a blurred prismatic storm, almost impossible to target, easily dodging blows that would otherwise surely strike. For greater effect of their illusions on the battlefield, Shadow Seers use their Creedon grenade launchers to sow terror and madness among the enemies. Rifled psychoplastic tubes on the grenade launcher's lid hurl canisters of hallucinogenic gas into the air according to pre-programmed firing patterns. His mask remains as intriguing, impenetrable and impassive until an unsuspecting victim gazes upon it and sees in it a distorted reflection of themselves in the future. Coupled with narcotic billows, this unsettling sight renders most enemies helpless before the deadly strike of the Shadow Seer. Lightweight and compact shuriken pistols are popular among Harlequins, their refined and elegant appearance oftentimes misleading foes, a realization reached only when razor-sharp discs embed into their flesh. It is the successful blend of firepower with durability and light weight that makes the shuriken pistol particularly appealing to most Harlequins, as it perfectly suits their acrobatic fighting style. The Death Jester's favoured weapon, the Shrieker cannon, is infinitely more malevolent than the regular shuriken cannon, as it fires discs, known as Marseth in the Eldar tongue, saturated with deadly genetic toxins that transform unfortunate victims into walking bombs. Blood boils, organs burst, and flesh cooks from the inside before the horrific explosion shreds the target into fragments. Thermal pistols cause molecular hypervibration in the target, generating such immense heat that it ignites, melts, and vaporizes. Despite a short range, this weapon is widely used by masked troops due to its incredible destructive potential. The elegant psychocrystalline weapon known as the Neurodisruptor fires rays that burn nerve tissue in a torturous instant, against which armor provides no defense, as the charge effortlessly passes through it. In truth, a hit from the Neurodisruptor leaves no trace. The opponent simply collapses and begins convulsing violently. The Trildialil, or Star Bolas, consists of 3 heavy plasma charges tied to the ends of braided cords. To ready them for combat, they are forcefully spun and then hurled in a wide arc, causing the plasma charges to wrap around the target and explode with the fury of a dying sun. Harlequins always name their power swords after some legendary weapon from Eldar mythology. Many recall the blades forged by Vol to appease Cain and release his captives, Kurnus and Isha. Others favour names from various blades attributed to the House of Eldanesh, Cain, or those personally stolen by the Laughing God. Perhaps the iconic weapon of masked troops is the Brothu Ango, the Kiss of Doom, translated from the Eldar language, the terrifically dangerous monofilament injector known as the Harlequins' Kiss, which is a tube sharpened on one end, worn on the forearm. When this weapon pierces armor or flesh, it immediately unfurls a high-tensile monofilament wire, instantly transforming the victim's innards into a sanguine jelly. Affixed to the wrist, the Harlequin's Kiss operates on the same technology as the death spinners of warp spiders. The wielder of this weapon activates it a moment before engaging in melee, creating a cloud of monofilament wire that swiftly contracts around the unfortunate victim, slicing them into bloody pieces within mere moments. Employed by the solitaires, this device envelops the wielder's hand in a deadly force field, allowing them to effortlessly plunge their fingers into the enemy's flesh, bypassing any armor. The mist stave is crafted from psychoreactive materials and enhances the abilities of a Shadow Seer. By focusing the wielder's psychic power, the mist stave stuns and disorients the victim. However, it is not only adept at weaving intricate illusions, but also at delivering a swift demise to foes. Each Zephyrglaive is perfectly balanced to its owner, and surrounded by a field of molecular dissonance, making it a lethal weapon in high-speed combat, allowing the Skyweavers to deliver sweeping strikes with a wide radius. To create a searing beam in the prismatic cannon, a multi-laser array is employed, situated around a shard of psychocrystal. Through aperture adjustments, the destructive power of the weapon can be focused or diffused. The shuriken cannon fires monomolecular discs at an astonishing speed, barely visible to the naked eye, yet each is hard enough to penetrate flesh and metal with ease. The Harlequins use this weapon of retribution to support their attacks, unleashing screaming torrents of fire that tear enemies to shreds as the players dash onward. Mounted on Harlequin vehicles, the Mirage launchers are single-shot launchers for holographic grenades which, upon explosion, create a blindingly colourful flash that obscures the war machine from view for several precious seconds. The crackling discharges of electromagnetic energy emitted from the projecting trident of the EMP cannon disable even the most advanced electrical systems, leaving enemy tanks and aircraft powerless and at the mercy of cunning Harlequins. Collecting kinetic energy to distort the silhouette of the vehicle, the holofields prevent the opponent from targeting the vehicle's vulnerable spots. After the fall, the Harlequins followed the veiled plan of the Laughing God. Although their own records are deeply hidden within the Black Library, the deeds of the servants of the Laughing God are intertwined with the history of their kin. The emergence of masks is a mystery that increasingly fascinates minds as the end of the 41st millennium approaches. The fall, 30th millennium, the civilization of the ancient Eldari Empire was destroyed by the catastrophic birth of Slaanesh. Segurak's call, 32nd millennium. After the fall, the surviving followers of the Laughing God disappeared into the webway with not a single word of explanation. The war begins, the year 641 of the 33rd millennium. After centuries of isolation, the followers of Segurak return in an impressive manner. The mask of midnight sorrow burst forth from the webway at Leon Nuad and descended upon the horde of Slaanesh's demons. Their intervention saves the embattled military contingent of Craftworld Ultwi, and by joining forces, the Eldari drive their demonic foes back into the warp. This is but the first of many such grand entrances, with the masks announcing their return to war with great prowess. The first solitaire, the year 666 of the 33rd millennium. The Mask of the Eternal Dance gives its first-ever performance. Their audience is horrified, not least by the terrifying figure of the galaxy's first solitaire as he audaciously commands the stage. Destruction of Lugganath, the year 764 of the 34th millennium. Craftworld Lugganath was invaded by the traitor legion of the Emperor's children. Thousands perish as the followers of Slaanesh desecrate much of the crafted world and push back the defenders. The Eldari defend at the Reflection Square, where the Emperor's children use their sonic weaponry to bring down much of the Craftworld's elegant architecture upon the defenders, burying hundreds of Eldari under sheared girders of wraithbone. Seeing the devastation wrought by the horrible weapons of the Chaos Space Marines, the autarchs of Lugganath permit the use of the Wraith Fighters, Hemlock. The Emperor's children ultimately retreat from the rising barrage of necromantic energy, leaving their dead and fleeing from the vengeful Harlequins and indefatigable, relentless Wraith warriors. In the wake of conflict, the year 984 of the 35th millennium, Asdrubal Vecht seizes power in Comora. Few know of his relations with the Mask of the Veiled Path at this time, or of the dreadful pact he makes with them as he ascends the throne. The War of Mirrors, the year 358 of the 40th millennium, the Mask of the Silent Shroud comes up against the Gutrippers on the planet Shenga. Incredibly outnumbered, the Harlequins employ the planet's numerous portals to run circles around their orc enemies. Only a handful of Harlequins survive the 6-month conflict, but they sow such chaos that the War tears itself apart in fury. The rescue of Rildhol, the year 454 of the 40th millennium, the warband of the Chaos Lord Fulgulus descends upon an exodite world. However, his attempts to desecrate the world lead him to his downfall. The Mask of the Soaring Spite, supported by the cult of Strife Witches, descends upon the followers of Nurgle at the peak of their ritual and slaughters them all. The Cull, the year 988 of the 40th millennium, Imperial forces attempt to plunder forbidden archaeotech on the dying world of Caradox. The Midnight Sorrow strikes without warning, orchestrating a fierce campaign of raids and escapes. Eventually the frightened humans flee, abandoning their cursed prize, never having learned of the horrors it would unleash. The Giant Slayers, the year 56 of the 41st millennium, Knights of House Terran claim the virgin world of Velos for the Imperium. In response, the Frozen Stars deploy swarms of Voidweavers in the Seadith known as the Lament of Giants. Though the cost is high, the invaders are ultimately destroyed. The Demon's Dance, the year 113 of the 41st millennium, a solitaire battles the infamous bloodthirster known as the Skull-Taker before the Gates of Souls, reflecting the animosity between Khorne and Slaanesh. In the heat of the duel, the solitaire drops his guard and perishes. The psychic echo of his self-sacrifice resonates through the warp, to banish the Slaanesh demon horde gathering to break through the gates. The last laugh, the year 215 of the 41st millennium, the Mask of the Hidden Path makes a surprising offer of assistance in defending an Imperial Astra Militarum base on Rota from pirates. However, as the battle begins, they betray their former human allies, ending this seemingly unprovoked attack by casting the surviving defenders into space. The Scourge of Madrax, the year 785 of the 41st millennium, the Mask of the Dreaming Shadow initiates a decade-long campaign against the tomb worlds of Madrax, striving to stem the rising tide of Necrons after Craftworld Ulthwi failed to do so. The First Omen, the year 899 of the 41st millennium, when the sorcerer Ahriman of the Thousand Suns learns the first of several truths that will lead him to the Black Library, the first beam of light around the crystal tome of Sigurach flickers and vanishes. The Price of Curiosity, the year 948 of the 41st millennium, Tau explorers land on the empty shell of Craftworld Shianshar. However, just days after their arrival, the Tau are driven back by the Harlequins of the Frozen Stars, erupting from the webway portals of the Craftworld to expel the trespassers. Dangerous Debt, the year 987 of the 41st millennium. Led by the Shadow Seer Conclave, the Midnight Sorrow aids Inquisitor Sophia Vilemus in overcoming the Alpha Legion on Safe Haven. A massive demonic incursion is prevented, but in the battle's aftermath, the Seers inform Vilemus that she now owes them, and that soon they will come to collect. The Mysterious Victor, the year 990 of the 41st millennium. The great Harlequin triumphs in the Comorah dance of the Blinded Blade, fighting with impossible speed and skill. Rumours swirl that this enigmatic figure, who vanished shortly after the victory, was none other than Sigurach himself. Twilight descends, the year 992 of the 41st millennium. In the midst of the most desperate battle for survival on the craftworlds of Iyanden, Prince Iriel takes up the cursed Spear of Twilight. He is compelled to seize his fate as predicted by the Shadow Seer of the Mask of the Hidden Path. The enigmatic seer soon vanishes, the destiny of Iyanden ensured, and the role of the Veil Walker played to its end. The Kept Promise, the year 992 of the 41st millennium. While battling the Tyranids on Dashile, the Ultramarines of Task Force Apollon find their senses clouded by visions. The swarm is driven back by phantom figures, while the Astartes fall into unconsciousness. Awakening, they are horrified to find themselves strapped to the surgical tables of the homunculi. Their captors remain unseen, but the homunculi joyfully chant of a debt paid in blood. Wrath of Faolchu, the year 993 of the 41st millennium. Several masks join forces in a grand masquerade to topple Echo's spire on the shrine world of Bedros. In the process, they earn the undying enmity of the Space Wolves, whose honor is tainted by this bloody catastrophe. Dark Harvest, the year 996 of the 41st millennium. In several bloody battles, the Midnight Sorrow ensnared 66 heralds of Slaanesh within runestones. The purpose of this sinister harvest remains unclear. Blooded Shards, the year 997 of the 41st millennium. Amid the crystalline deserts of Jai Kalair, the Mask of the Hidden Path encounters a massive contingent of Khornate in battle. Utilizing illusion and cunning, the outnumbered Harlequins lead their rage-blinded foes into a ruinous fissure before crushing them with a razor-sharp landslide. The Seeker's Denial, the year 998 of the 41st millennium. A fierce battle erupts in the twilight realm of the Webway as the Chaos Space Marines of the Thousand Suns Legion breach sight of the Black Library. Their leader, Chaos Sorcerer Ahriman, is repelled by a powerful counter-assault from Eldari Harlequins and allies from the craftworlds Ulthwi and Lugganath. Several major arteries of the Webway fill with corpses before the Psyker warriors of the Thousand Suns Legion are driven from the secret paths by a coordinated attack. The breach caused by the frenzied Chaos Sorcerers is rune-sealed, but a part of the Webway is lost forever as a result. The Death of Duriel, the year 999 of the 41st millennium, the virgin world Duriel, long conquered by the Imperium, faces an invasion of splinter fleets Leviathan and Kraken. To prevent the Hive fleets from unifying, a troop of Harlequins forms an alliance between the craft worlds Biel-Tan and Iyanden, as well as the Drukhari of Commorragh. The ensuing war is fought on truly apocalyptic scales. The curtain rises, the year 999 of the 41st millennium. The galaxy burns, the lights of war illuminate the blood-soaked stage. The veil grows thin, soon it will be torn aside. According to the will of the laughing god, the Harlequins take their places to perform their final greatest act, or die in the attempt.